Hello and welcome to Join Safety Training. I'll be your safety instructor today as we go through your onboarding training. I've been working safely since 2005 when Join started, and I know you can too. My goal is for you to have a solid framework for working safely on any job site while you are employed through our company. If you have any questions, be sure to ask any Join representative during or after this training session. One of our company's main priorities is to send you home the way you came, healthy, and with a paycheck, of course. To do this, we created this interactive safety training video for you. I only have 15 minutes with you, so let's get started. We are going to touch on each of these topics. Welcome, work objectives, PPE, machine guarding, lockout tagout, hearing conservation, hazard communication standards, hazardous material, blood-borne pathogens, airborne contaminants, emergency evacuation, forklift, safe lifting practices, slip, trip, and falls, housekeeping, reporting accidents, review, and finally, a closing with our contact information. Join Us' work objectives is to have our employees develop the job skills and work experience to first collect the paycheck and next to get hired on at their work assignment. None of this is possible, of course, without a high degree of safety in the workplace. I can guarantee that after this training, you will have an increased awareness of safety while on your job assignment and further, an increased satisfaction that Join Us is doing its best to keep you safe at your worksite. PPE. Now let's begin with personal protective equipment, or PPE. It's designed to reduce or eliminate the possibility that an injury will occur. It includes a variety of devices such as steel-toed shoes, cut and slip resistant gloves, safety glasses, earplugs, hard hats, and bump caps. Appropriate PPE will be provided for your use according to your work assignment. It will be your responsibility to maintain your PPE and keep it clean. Please be sure to inspect your PPE prior to each use and never wear any damaged PPE. Did you know that OSHA reports that workers who operate and maintain machinery suffer approximately 18,000 amputations, lacerations, crushing injuries, abrasions, and over 800 deaths annually? Many of which could be reduced by proper use of machine guarding. On your job assignment with Join Us, you may find yourself operating and/or maintaining machinery, all of which should be equipped with guarding mechanisms for your safety. It's imperative to understand how a machine works and how the guards can protect you to reduce the risk of injury. Working without machine guards can cause serious injuries such as crushing of a body part, amputation, electric shock, and blindness. A good rule to remember is any machine part, function, or process which may cause injury while in motion must be guarded. If it moves and you can touch it, then guard it. Before starting work, make sure all machine guards are attached and functioning properly. Machines should not be used if the machine guards are not in place or not functioning. Do not remove guards and be sure to report any machine guard issues to your supervisor immediately. Lockout tagout is the placement of a lock and tag on an isolating device. This prevents the unexpected startup or activation of a machine or equipment during service or maintenance operations that might cause injury. In short, lockout tagout kills all the energy going into a machine before we do any work on that piece of equipment. This ensures no one is hurt during service or maintenance. It is estimated that lockout tagout safety programs prevent over 50,000 injuries and over 120 fatalities each year. That's about 140 injuries every day and 1 death every 3 days. So it's extremely important to be aware of lockout tagout procedures. Only authorized employees can lock out equipment for service or maintenance. If you are authorized to perform lockout tagout, use the following steps to initiate the process. 1. Notify employees in the immediate area that work will be performed on a particular machine or equipment. 2. Identify all energy control points and necessary equipment for lockout and refer to the machine-specific procedures. 3. Conduct an orderly shutdown of equipment. 4. Deactivate energy control devices from energy sources. 5. Lock out all energy control devices with a padlock. 6. Dissipate or restrain stored energy through blocking, bleeding, and grounding. 7. Verify isolation from energy source by attempting to operate machine. 8. Return all energy controls and buttons to neutral or off position. Never remove or tamper with a lockout performed by another employee. A lockout could consist of a lock applied to a control such as a switch, breaker, or valve. A tag that says "Danger, do not operate" may also be used for lockout. If you ever see a lock, a tag, or both, it's vital for you not to try to restart the equipment. Hearing conservation. According to OSHA, noise-induced hearing loss is one of the most common occupational injury, and it is the second most self-reported occupational illness or injury. The time to be concerned about hearing loss is before it even starts. Hearing loss is permanent, but preventable with the right protection. There are a variety of sizes and styles of hearing protection, from single-use earplug, pre-formed or molded earplugs, and earmuffs. Experts recommend wearing hearing protection when regularly exposed to 85 decibels of noise. So if your designated work site requests you to wear protective hearing equipment, please consistently adhere to their wishes. They are concerned for your safety. Hazard Communication Standards. The Hazard Communication Standard was created by OSHA to help ensure your safety when working with hazardous chemicals. You have a right to know what chemicals you work with, what the hazards are, and how to handle them safely. You should always know the chemicals you are working with before you work with them. Safety data sheets are created by chemical suppliers in order to inform everyone who comes into contact with the product. These data sheets are the most important pieces of information we have concerning chemicals used in the workplace. They detail the chemical contents, associated hazards, and give a guideline for general safe handling. As a Joinus employee, if you are in contact with any such hazards, safety data sheet should be accessible to you at all times. Let's go over some general rules for handling hazards. Be sure to read all label warnings and instructions. Follow instructions, for example, more does not mean better. Next, minimize contact with any known hazards. 3. It's alright to use double-layer cloths or gloves to protect your skin and keep your face clear of the area to reduce inhalation. Next, always wash your hands after handling anything hazardous. Of course, if a chemical or anything enters your eyes, immediately hold the injured eye and rinse it with clean, cool water for 15 minutes. Finally, be sure to report the injury immediately. Any questions regarding chemicals should be reported to your on-site supervisor. All chemical containers must be labeled to identify contents and hazards. Familiarize yourself with the standardized pictograms denoted by red frames in the picture on the left. If you are in a situation where there is no label or you can't read the label, you should stop immediately. Do not use the chemical and tell your on-site supervisor immediately. Hazardous material. Fire is always a serious risk in the workplace, but with proper precautions, it can be avoided. First, there are a few simple things you can do to prevent fires. Always comply with regulations and safety rules in your workplace. Obey no smoking signs. When smoking is allowed, dispose of cigarettes and matches in the receptacles after making sure they are completely extinguished. Watch for frayed electrical cords and overloaded circuits. Dispose of flammable waste and scraps by placing them in metal containers. There are 4 classes of fire. Class A are trash, wood, and paper fires. These are fires that occur on wood, cloth, paper, rubber, and many other types of plastics. Class B fires are liquid and grease fires. These occur on gas, oil, grease, tar, oil-based paint, lacquer, or flammable gases. Class C fires are electrical equipment fires. These fires are energized, often caused by electricity, and occur on equipment. Class D fires are combustible fires. These fires occur on combustible materials such as magnesium, sodium, potassium, titanium, zirconium, and other flammable metals. Fire prevention is instrumental. When your facility has flammable and combustible material, always store it in a safe area. Fumes can travel a considerable distance and can become ignited by a furnace, stove, electrical equipment, or even a lit cigarette. While working with combustible material, refer to the SDS for proper disposal methods. Now let us go over what to do in the event of a fire. Always be prepared for a fire by becoming familiar with the location and operation of firefighting equipment. Learn where fire extinguishers are located and what types of fires they are to be used with. Fire extinguishers are a common tool that is used on Class A, B, and C fires. It uses a dry chemical to extinguish flames and has a range of 5 to 20 feet. It extinguishes fires by smothering the burning materials. When fighting a fire with a fire extinguisher, remember the 4-point system called PASS. P. Pull the pin. A. Aim low at the base of the flames. S. Squeeze the handle. And S. Sweep side to side. Pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. Congratulations! We've reached the halfway mark in our training. Go ahead and take a minute to jot down any notes or questions you may have up until now. Emergency evacuations. Emergencies in the workplace can happen at any time. Always be alert and aware of your surroundings, especially exits. When an emergency requires you to evacuate the facility, an alarm will sound. You should take immediate action to leave the building and quickly move to a designated area outside the building. Don't delay evacuating by going back for personal belongings or waiting for coworkers. Use stairs instead of elevators. When you first arrive at your designated work site, Jonas believes it's a good idea to study the emergency evacuation map in your area carefully. Exit routes may be different depending on where you are in the facility. If there is an evacuation due to severe weather such as a tornado, employees should 1. Shut down equipment, 2. Seek cover, 3. Hide under furniture if possible, and 4. Protect your body by covering it. Blood-borne pathogens. We can't tell by looking at a person if they are infected with a pathogenic disease, so we must take precautions when bodily fluids are released. Blood and other bodily fluids can carry pathogens which can cause diseases in others. This includes hepatitis, along with HIV, which can lead to AIDS. You may be exposed to blood-borne pathogens while responding to an illness or injury by providing first aid care or when cleaning and sanitizing a bodily fluid spill. When a person is losing bodily fluids due to an illness or injury, stay away from the area and warn others to also do so. You can still stay close to the ill or injured person to support him or her. Just be sure to stay away from contacting any bodily fluids. If you find spilled bodily fluids, a syringe, or other medically contaminated material, do not attempt to clean it up by yourself. Call your on-site supervisor immediately for instructions. Overall, we believe it's best to stay away and warn others. If an exposure is suspected, any employee should immediately wash exposed skin surfaces with large amounts of soap and warm water. Rinse exposed mucous membranes with large quantities of warm water and report any actual or suspected exposure incident to his or her supervisor. Airborne contaminants can consist of harmful dust, insufficient oxygen, fog, sprays, vapor, smoke, gas, and mist. Many of these items are small and invisible to the eye. However, exposure can still cause short-term and even long-term health-related issues. Problems can be serious and may cause cancer, lung impairment, other diseases, and even death. It may seem like a hassle to wear PPE, but respirators reduce the risk of airborne contaminant exposure. Respirators are an important safety and health protection tool when used properly. If you are required to use a respirator in the workplace, follow these simple rules to protect yourself from harmful airborne contaminants and particles. Use respirators certified for use to protect against the contaminant you are working with. There are different types of respirators, including single-use, half-face piece, full-face piece, air purifying, and atmosphere supplying respirators. Always inspect your respirator before use. Alert your supervisor and replace your respirator if you find a crack, puncture, tear, leak, or any other unusual condition. Check the face piece seal each time you wear your respirator. Keep your face shaved and clear. Facial hair, headbands, bandanas, or other objects may interfere with the effectiveness of the respirator. Follow all instructions provided by the manufacturer on use, maintenance, cleaning and care, and warnings regarding your respirator. If your respirator has a cartridge, use the correct cartridge and make sure it hasn't expired. Always feel free to contact your supervisor or other designated person if you need assistance or have questions about airborne contaminants and using respirators. Finally, there are some additional safe work practices that can reduce risk at your worksite. 1. Be gentle handling products. 2. Take care when transferring dusty materials. 3. Work at a manageable pace. 4. Be careful when emptying containers. Forklift. As a kid, you may have dreamed of driving a forklift one day, but driving a forklift, also called a powered industrial truck, is a serious responsibility and should not be taken lightly. Every year, there are over 35,000 forklift-related injuries. Here are some common driver errors that we've seen over the years. 1. Don't travel with the load elevated and keep the load stable and as close to the floor as possible. 2. Avoid raising or lowering a load while the truck is moving, and always keep the load tilted backwards. 3. Slow down for corners, blind spots, doorways, and uneven floors and surfaces. 4. Report any malfunction or poor performance to your supervisor immediately. 5. Drive defensively by always being aware of your surroundings and give those on foot the right of way. Safe lifting practices. There are practices you should utilize as an employee when you are manually lifting objects. Anytime you are manually lifting anything, there are a few simple rules to follow so you can make a safety lift. Make sure you can properly handle the load. If the load is too heavy, too big, or too awkward, get help. This is done by inspecting the object before attempting to lift it. Next, it's good practice to use good form or stance when lifting. This is done by lifting with your legs and keeping your back straight. Lifting with your back is a big no-no. Finally, avoid twisting and turning your waist while lifting anything. Instead, hold the material in front of you and move your feet instead of twisting your back. Slip, trip, and falls. Although it may seem minor, slips, trips, and falls account for millions of work-related injuries every year. In fact, these incidents account for more fatalities than all other work-related incidents, excluding motor vehicles. OSHA reports that slips, trips, and falls account for a startling 15% of all work-related fatalities. There are many ways you can suffer from a slip, trip, or fall while working. You can slip and lose your balance. You can trip over objects left improperly in your walkway, or you can simply fall from an elevated position to the ground. To avoid slips and falls, be on the lookout for things on the floor, such as water, food, grease, or any other debris. Even small quantities of these are enough to make you lose your footing. Use these simple rules to prevent slips, trips, and falls. When entering a building, clean your shoes thoroughly, especially if they have been exposed to snow, rains, or other wet conditions. Avoid running, walk safely, and do not change directions too sharply. Clean debris by using trash barrels and recycling bins. Walk in designated walking areas. Shortcuts through machine or other manufacturing areas can cause accidents. Hold on to handrails when using stairs or ramps. With the practice of good housekeeping, you can help minimize the chance of injury to you and others in the workplace. Good housekeeping means keeping the work areas clear of obstruction, specifically aisles, exits, and emergency equipment. Also, each of us are responsible for keeping our work areas clean and safe by cleaning several times throughout the day. Disposing of trash and waste in approved containers, wiping up any drips and spills immediately, and putting equipment and tools away as we are finished with them. Last but not least, after an injury takes place, you must report the injury or incident. I hope this never happens, but in the unfortunate event you are injured on the job, this is imperative. Failure to report work-related injuries in a timely manner may result in loss of workers' compensation benefits. Each office will have a set reporting procedure. If an injury is caused by an accident, it will be investigated and you will be asked to participate in the investigation. Any attempt to defraud joiners with a false workers' compensation claim will result in disciplinary action and may be referred to the district attorney for possible prosecution. Our goal is to have you back in tip-top shape so you can resume working again. Alright, we've completed our onboard safety training. Now is a great time to review and ask any questions. In the future, if there are any other questions or you simply need to get a hold of one of our offices, you can reach us at the following locations.